Our next caller today is Chad from...
Hey there. Yeah, it's Nooksack, Washington.
Nooksack. Now, this is the Chad I know, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, my former student like 30 years ago or 25 years ago. Good to hear from you.
Yeah, you too. And if you could just quickly run down some examples where Jesus' miracles provided kind of like object lessons of deeper spiritual realities. Like, for example, when he said, I'm the resurrection of the life, and then he raised Lazarus from the dead. I've heard you in the past talk about several examples of things like that, and I just couldn't remember exactly what they were.
Sure. Yeah, I'd be glad to. And by the way, I personally think that all of Jesus' miracles, in a sense, were object lessons of spiritual realities. Because back in Isaiah 53 and verse 5, it says, he was wounded for our transgressions, he was bruised for our iniquities, and with his stripes we are healed. Many people think that's talking about physical healing, but it's actually in Isaiah talking about the healing of the nation, which was introduced as a problem, the lack thereof, in Isaiah chapter 1, where the whole nation in its alienation from God was seen as sick, from head to foot, full of putrefying sores. No one had bound them up. No medical attention had been given to them. It's a metaphor for the sick condition of the nation vis-a-vis God. The healing that is necessary is the restoration of the nation to right terms with God, and no one can do that until the Messiah comes, and with his stripes we're healed. So Isaiah speaks of the Messiah as healing the spiritual condition of the nation, but Jesus did physical healings as an emblem that he was the one who would come to fulfill those scriptures of spiritually healing the nation. For example, we know from the paralyzed man who was lowered through the roof of the building, Jesus said, "Son, your sins are forgiven you." And when Jesus was accused of blaspheming for making that claim to forgive sins, he said, well, so that you may know that the Son of Man has authority on earth to forgive sins, I'm going to heal this man. And he healed the man as a demonstration. It was a physical healing, but it was demonstrating that Jesus had the actual authority to forgive sins, that is, to be the healer of the spiritual condition of the nation. John's gospel records very few miracles of Jesus, only 7 actually miracles besides the resurrection, and each of them seems to point to some spiritual lesson. At least most of them clearly do. For example, the first thing Jesus did was turned water to wine in John chapter 2. Now, that corresponds, I believe, to John 15, where Jesus said, I am the true vine. That is, what does a vine do? A vine takes water and turns it into wine. That's what vines are for. That's why people plant them. They want to turn water into wine. It's a process that takes some time with a natural grapevine. Jesus did it instantly. But that showed that he was the true vine, as he claimed to be. And later on, of course, in chapter 9, for example, in chapter 8, he said, I'm the light of the world. And in the next chapter, he heals a blind man. We know that the healing of the blind man, though it was a physical miracle, it represented something spiritual, because at the end of chapter 9, he said, for judgment I've come into the world so that those who are blind may be made to see, and those who see may be made blind. He's obviously talking about spiritually. In fact, the Pharisees understood that too. They said, what are you talking about us? You think we're blind? And he said, well, if you're blind, you'd have no sin, but because you say we see, your sin remains. Obviously, he's talking about the blindness he came to heal and to impose was a spiritual blindness, and healing that man's blindness was an emblem of that. In John 6, Jesus fed people by multiplying loaves of bread, and the next day he said, I am the bread of life. I'm the true bread from heaven. If you eat me, you'll live forever. You mentioned yourself John 11, where Jesus said, I am the resurrection and the life. He that believes in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. And whoever lives and believes in me shall never die. And then he raised Lazarus from the dead. Actually, raising a man from physical death was an indication that he was the spiritual resurrection and the life. I mean, these are some of the areas where we have specific examples of miracles of Jesus that clearly correspond to spiritual realities. And as I said, I think all of his healings, even when there's no specific reference to, let's say, to a blind man being healed or a specific kind of person being healed, that Jesus is the healer of the nation that Isaiah said the Messiah would be, that is a spiritual healing function, but I think his physical healings were visible evidences that he is the one that God sent to heal spiritually. And some of the special kinds of miracles he did specifically referred to special spiritual parallels.